WhiskyJason, Whiskey Live Dublin 2023, together with.
Brian Ash from Wild Atlantic Distillery.
Now, this is a distillery not many people know much about. So
No.
Tell us a little bit about the history, first of all.
Well, we're kind of new. We started our journey back in 2018, okay, and quite literally a small 20-litre still in my garden shed. And we had this crazy idea that how hard could it be to open a distillery?
So you're an engineer, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
And you're a marine engineer?
Marine engineer.
Yep.
I've spent the last 3 decades traveling the world, fixing super yachts, submarines, ships. And
then you said, hey, whiskey might be something.
Well, it
alcohol. How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? You know, you sit there around a kitchen table, you've had probably 1 or 2, and you're basically saying, you know, how hard can it be to make this?
And how hard is it?
It's incredibly hard. I didn't know that back in 2018.
Yeah.
And but look, we thought, let's go for it. Let's see what happens.
Right.
So I teamed up with my brother-in-law, Jim, and we thought, let's buy a small still, let's experiment.
Right.
And we started with white spirits.
Yep.
We started with a gin, and
so this is not the vodka. This is the gin.
this one here.
All right, so we can show this very briefly. You don't see gin and vodka very often. Right?
No, exactly. But you know,
They're so new they don't have any whiskey yet. So this is our vodka as well. So, all right.
So
start off the white
we
spirits.
started off with the white spirits, and ultimately, that recipe there, which won the World Gin Awards and Northern Ireland's Best Contemporary Gin, took 40 recipes.
Right.
Now, we had great fun tasting some of those recipes, okay?
So just to put that in perspective, all right? Not 10, not 20, not 30 different wrong recipes, but you had 40.
Yeah, we figured out that essentially it took 40 times to get it perfect.
Yeah.
And
Which shows your perfection.
yeah, I'm a little OCD.
A little.
Drives my business partner insane because he wants the product, and I'm still messing around with it. But I'll tell you what, starting with gin taught me so much about distilling. But we got to recipe 16 and we realized I needed some professional help.
You need some help.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't mean with my head. I basically, so I took myself off to Holland,
Right.
and I trained in the distillery for a week.
Yep.
And it doesn't sound like a huge amount of time, but the way I looked at it was, you know, when you learn to drive, when you learn to drive and you pass your test, you don't know how to drive fully yet. You know the basics, okay? So it was a case of, after that week of distilling every day, 10 hours a day, tasting, smelling, understanding certain cut points, temperatures, everything, you know, I then took all that knowledge back and I spent another year making lots and lots of different expressions. Some were good, some were not so good, but it taught me a lot. And we decided to open the distillery. So we broke ground in 2019.
Right.
Opened the distillery in February 2020.
And then that evil C word happened.
Yeah, it kind of slowed us down a little, but it gave us plenty of time to master our sort of skills and so forth. And big problem for us is it also slowed down our copper pot still deliveries. And it was supposed to be early 2020. We didn't get it until late 2020.
Good. Yeah.
So whilst we spent a lot of time on our white spirits, the concept of the distillery, we always wanted to be a whiskey distillery from day one of the inception. But as we all know, you have to wait a long time, okay?
Minimum in Ireland of 3 years.
3 years. And, you know, look, if I wanted a product, I'll go buy some, stick a label on it and sell it. That, to me, that's a bit boring. You know, I like making stuff. I'm an engineer, I put my hands to it. And so once the actual distill arrived, and I put the still in myself.
Yes, and then the best part about it was that it still is analog, isn't it? Or wasn't it?
Yeah, wasn't it? And the funny thing is, I've got another still, which is a white spirit still.
You love that.
It's my baby.
Yes.
It's computer control. It's got temperature sensors in it. And then our copper pot still arrived, and there's like big dials on it. And I'm like, well, I'm a sort of man of a certain age, and I can't see that far.
Yeah.
So first I spent a month stripping all that out and digitizing it. So I had a lot of sort of digital controls to it, even to the point where if the water cut off, the old still would just carry on boiling and kill itself. So I got rid of that. So I added a lot of safety devices to it, and now it's so different to my white spirit still. My white spirit still sends me little texts saying I'm fine and everything's great. My copper pot still can get quite grumpy.
Yeah.
And
I like this.
And I learned on my first distillation run, because I flooded the entire column, I learned very quickly, do not leave that still. Still goes on at 7:30.
Yeah.
Be next to it between 9 and 10.
Yes.
Because
unattended stills are like unattended children. They make a mess.
They make a mess, and I learned that straight away. And I spent a lot of time tuning that still in, because everything we do is done to the nth degree. Because I'm an engineer, I tend to be a bit OCD.
You even talked about the barometric pressure.
Yeah. So what I learned very, very quickly was that obviously, essentially, cuts are everything.
Yep. Temperature is even more everything.
And cuts is driven by temperature.
Right. Yes.
Everything in the distillery is temperature controlled. Yep. So let's say you cut at 92.5 degrees.
Right.
Okay. But if the barometric pressure is off,
yep.
okay, then that you could be off by half a degree. You might be off by 1 degree. And what that essentially means is you could either be not far enough into tails,
yep.
or too far into tails.
Yep.
So that barometric pressure sensor is at everything, and it runs the entire distillery. So digital temperature sensors, barometric pressure sensors, understanding the entire process, and it makes an engineer actually, I enjoy it.
It makes you happy.
It puts a big smile on my face,
yeah.
even when I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because, whiskey, Irish whiskey, that sort of distillate is so sensitive to even off flavors that come. You have to go right back to the mashing.
Yeah.
The water's got to be right. The temperature's got to be right. The yeast you use has to be perfect. Some distillers might not be too concerned about the fermentation process. I am,
yeah.
because I know that the copper will get rid of off flavors, but why have the off flavors in the beginning? So if you control temperature and pH, you don't have any of that.
Yeah.
So then you transfer great wash into the still. And then all the copper still is doing is essentially distilling well. You control your vapor speeds, so everything's done to the 8th degree. Control your cuts, and then your new make ends up being. Look, I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's gorgeous. And then the next thing you've got to do is get the right barrel.
Yep.
Barrels are everything. We work with local cooperages, and it's nice to see coopers back in Ireland.
Yeah, it is.
We work with a great company called Darnua. Bit of a shout out for those guys. We get all our specialty casks. You guys can't see it, but on my stand here, I've got an ex-Martinique rum cask, and the smell from that cask is beautiful. And I can't wait to put distillate in it. And we've got PX, we've got Oloroso, we've got bourbon. As an owner and a distiller, I can do what I like.
Right.
If Annette from Darnau will say, I've got this cask, I'll send it over, bring it, I'll fill it, and I'll leave it for 5 years, and see what happens. So yeah, that's great. And so we're closing very, very shortly.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're at this show to talk about our brand, introduce Wild Atlantic Distillery, because this time next year, we're back with our first Irish whiskey, single malt specialty release, one in the summer, one towards the winter, and it's because that's how long it's taken. Those barrels are coming out. They have a special finish on them. We're not going to tell anybody what they are yet, but we're really excited.
I noticed.
Yeah. And because that's our distillery finally becoming of age. It's taken all this time to get from white spirits to the dark spirits we always wanted. And we've tasted the 1-year-old, the 2-year-old, and we're really happy. And you guys are going to be happy too.
I'm sure. Now you also have a cast program, don't you?
We do. We have a cast program.
188?
Yeah, the one at 8.
First, why 188?
So there's 188 points along the Wild Atlantic Way, and each cask is named after one of those points. Because having a cask program isn't just about selling lots and lots of casks. Because first of all, for every cask I sell, I can't make and lay down my own whiskey.
Yeah.
But, you know, you want the provenance
Yeah.
of our distillery wrapped around that cask. So, a prime example would be the Skellig Michael cask.
All right.
They went back in, 2021, they went in a heartbeat. So Skellig Michael, that's Star Wars Island.
Yes.
And there is 2 Oloroso sherry butts laid down, Skellig Michael. There's only going to be that whiskey coming out of those butts. Now, that's probably 5 to 10 years away, okay? But there'll be a whole story around that. But at the end of, when we disgorge those casks, we break the casks, okay?
I love that, yes.
Because there'll only ever be that release. So everything's small batch. Everything is sort of unique to us. And our cask program, you join us, you become part of the Wild Atlantic family, and we look after you guys, and we nurture those casks. And as I said, I'm OCD. You'll find me in the barrel house, and I'm just sat there breathing it all in. So it's great.
Very, very good. Online, where can we find you?
So our website is wildatlanticdistillery.ie. You'll get our story. We've got an online store. You'll get to see images of myself and Jim. All the whiskey still more importantly, I guess.
Very, very good. And can we visit you?
Yeah, we do a range of distillery tours. Do 2 different types of tour. We do our generic tour. I say it's not generic. It's a great tour. But we talk about white spirits. We talk about whiskey. What I like about
standard normal tour.
But
there is also
the great thing about this with regards to our standard tour is you can get to touch the stills, take pictures, smell, get into the mash house. So you're getting a backroom view of a working distillery. And normally it's probably either myself or Jim, you know, who own it and run the whole distillery. And you get to do that tour. You get to taste some great spirits. We have our own bar. It's a good sort of a couple of hours. But we also do another style of tour, which is our whiskey-only tour, okay? And that's slightly different because you're tasting new make, 1-year-old, 2-year-old. If you come next year, it'll be 3-year-old. But from different casks. You know, you can try a bourbon, and we have 3 different types of bourbon casks. So, and then we have PX, we have rum, you know, and it's very interesting to see how that maturation occurs over time. So our tours are pretty special. They're unique. They're very small, and you should come down and join us sometime.
Very good. What part of way up in the north?
We're in the northwest, on the Tyrone-Donegal border, and we're about 20 minutes from Donegal town. We're about 20 minutes from Derry, so we're very rural. We are in the middle of nowhere, but
it's worth it.
It's worth finding us.
All right, WhiskyJason here together with
Brian Ash.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.